Yeah, shout out Huncho 3 times. Bitch, I'm riding with the gang. I be riding with them AKs. Side buzzing, boy, they hop out, bustin' rain. All my niggas pull up on this block and let it rain. All my niggas really want it bustin' in your brain. Yeah, bitch, you know we thuggin'. Yeah, to have a boss like this, you gotta be from the fucking streets. Yeah, how you think I made a name in the full streets?
I like it. Gingerbread man. It's a mega.
Say it again. You don't say it right now.
Sports monkey. Tunes.
I didn't know how to
Yo.
Oh my god.
He's on.
Hey!
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, a lot more of us are starting to wake up and get on code, and we don't have a choice. We are literally prisoners of war that has been going on for hundreds of years. If that's not a reason to get on code, I don't know what is. Now, we have to understand we are dealing with a group of people, a country, that got everything they got, not based on any kind of morality or righteousness. They use lies and deception, brutality, torture, and murder. And if any of us ever got out of line, the punishment was swift and severe. This is not a group you can try to appeal to their morality or their righteousness to get justice. And you can't ask anybody else for justice. If somebody else gives you equality, they can take it away at any time. You command respect, not beg for it. Protesting and marching, trying to convince them not to be who they are, is not going to get respect. There are reasons we know about cases like Amistad. They even made a movie about it. But you never really hear about cases like the Creole Case, even though it happened around the same time. In 1841, a brother Madison Washington led a revolt on a slave ship called the Creole, which was transporting over 140 slaves from Richmond to New Orleans. Now, this brother Madison Washington, who had already escaped slavery once, and he made it up to Canada, but he said, freedom means nothing to me while my wife is still in bondage. So this brother left Canada with freedom papers and some weapons that he had hidden in his clothing and came back to Virginia to come and get his wife. But when he found her, an overseer ended up spotting him. And the first 3 white men that approached him, he knocked out. But eventually enough of them came to overpower him, and he was captured and sold into slavery. Now, for the first few days on the slave ship, he didn't cause any trouble and pretended to comply with everything they were saying. But they still had him chained up to the floor. So one day, he used the saw that he had hidden in his clothes that he brought with him and freed himself and 18 other men. They surprised the crew and they attacked him, and they eventually took over the ship. Now, the brothers who we freed wanted to kill all of the ship's crew for everything they had done to them. But this brother Madison Washington said no, and even said to treat their injuries. But as soon as they healed, they tried to attack and regain control of the ship. But of course they failed. And this brother Madison Washington still didn't kill him. They eventually sailed the ship to the Bahamas, where they knew they would be free, and they were automatically freed as soon as they landed. This man Madison Washington led one of the largest slave revolts in history, freeing 128 people, including his wife, who we didn't even know was on the ship. And another 5 people decided to return to slavery and go back to New Orleans. But this brother Madison Washington, who had attempted a slave revolt before, but it failed, and he had already escaped from slavery once, put himself back in slavery and freed himself again, this time freeing 128 people with him. And there is a reason he is not spoken about. This brother took destiny in his own hands. Meanwhile, America worships its killers like Andrew Jackson. They put his face on money. And they'll even teach you about Amistad, talking about give us free. But they won't tell you how Madison Washington took his freedom and helped another 128 people get theirs. But America will go out of the way to protect its killers. In Texas, a grandfather, Kevin Battle Sr., was shot to death by his white neighbor, Mark Jabben, right in front of his son and his 5-year-old grandson. Now let's see what happened with this brother, this grandfather, Kevin Battle Sr., and how he ended up getting murdered.
Kevin Battle II and his two sons traveled to Fort Worth, Texas during spring break to see Kevin Sr. Grandpa paid for the flights. During the visit, Kevin Sr. told his son about a fight on March 20th where his neighbor, who was white, used the N-word.
He stated he was playing music in his home. The neighbor came banging on his door, and then he just said, turn your music down. My father went outside on the shared porch that they shared. He lives in a duplex. My dad just told me that the altercation got physical.
Then last Monday, Kevin II says the family was preparing a cookout when the neighbor said something concerning to the 5-year-old grandson. Kevin Sr. took his grandson by the hand and went to the neighbor's door.
He calls my dad Buddy, his grandfather, knocked on the door, and he said a big white man with a big belly came to the door with a gun and shot his buddy. That's his account. That's all he says. He doesn't say anything else. That's all he knows.
Kevin II doesn't know what initially happened or was said in that entryway.
I hear a gunshot, so I run to the front of my dad's door, and then what I see is my dad turn around, and I see him get shot in the back of the head and laying face down.
Kevin II grabbed his son and ran out the back door. Fort Worth police recovered the gun, but the neighbor has not been arrested. He is claiming self-defense under the Stand Your Ground law in Texas. Kevin II wants more answers from police.
They're not giving us any updates or anything about what's going on or any new evidence that they may have found. They're just I feel like they're sweeping it under the rug, and I just feel like I don't want my dad's death to go unnoticed.
Kevin Battle Sr. was 57 years old. His family is making arrangements for his body to be cremated, and services are pending in Texas. This case appears to be headed to a grand jury, also in Fort Worth.
Now, this brother Kevin Battle Sr. said about a week or so before he got shot, he got into an argument with his neighbor, Mark Jabben. He said the white dude was complaining over music, and then he called him nigga, and then the altercation turned physical. And this brother Kevin Battle Sr. probably hemmed him up. So then about a week or so later, Kevin Battle's son and his grandson come out to visit him. And they were setting up, getting ready to have a cookout. So then this white dude, Mark Jabben, knocked on the door, most likely because he saw he had family over, and they were about to have a cookout. And he was talking about, let's talk about what happened before. And his brother Kevin Battle said, I ain't got time to talk to you right now, and went on about his business. So then this white dude, Mark Jabben, said something to his 5-year-old grandson that had him scared, and he went to go tell him that he said something to him. So Kevin Battle Sr. went with his grandson over and knocked on his door to find out what he said. So then this white dude, Mark Jabben, opens the door with his gun and shoots him in the face. And as Kevin Battle tried to turn around to protect his grandson, he shot him again in the back of the head. His son, Kevin Battle Jr., who was also standing right there in the doorway, turned around and saw his dad getting shot in the back of the head. So he grabbed his 5-year-old son and ran in the house. Now this guy, Mark Jabben, even though we know he murdered him, still haven't been arrested. And the police say they're still investigating.
A fight, meanwhile, in part over a racial slur, according to family, may have been what led to a deadly shooting in East Fort Worth. Kevin Battle was shot in the head Monday, but the neighbor police say he argued with has not been arrested or charged in the case. Our Jason Allen uncovered what happened in the days before the shooting. He's live now with this report. Jason?
Ken, this is the duplex back here where Kevin Battle was killed. You see the balloons and flowers that they cover that shared common area that he shared with his next door neighbor, and it's also where he was shot. It was not the first altercation in this location, though. There was a fight days before the shooting, and one where family told me that police had to be called. Battle was 57, and he had his son and his 2 grandsons here this past week. They were visiting for spring break. When Battle's son first got into town last week, he said his dad told him that he'd been in a physical fight with his neighbor after he said the man had called him the N-word. Well, they didn't see the neighbor until Monday, and that's when Battle's 5-year-old grandson told his grandfather the man next door had said something to him. So Battle took the boy to his neighbor's door to find out what happened. And Battle Jr. told me he didn't hear any arguing or any fighting, just a gunshot. And then he turned in time to see the second shot hit his father in the back of the head.
Based off what we told him, I thought it was going to be an arrest. About what he seen, I didn't think there was any clear-cut danger. He was with my son. My dad wasn't, he just wanted to know what he said to my son. That's what we were trying to figure out.
Well, today, criticism over the lack of an arrest in this case. It has been growing on social media with videos and posts to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. Fort Worth police told us today they're still investigating.
Now, this brother Kevin Battle has called the police on this white dude, Mark Jabben, before. And the police say they took a report, but nobody can find the report because they most likely didn't even file it. This man was known to be racist and start trouble. And this isn't his first time. But now he wants to use the stand your ground defense, which is basically I fear for my life for citizens. They only question this dude, Mark Jabben. They never arrested him. They haven't charged him because he said he feared for his life even though he was with his 5-year-old grandson. This 5-year-old was holding his grandfather's hand while he got shot to death. And now he got to live with it. And now the police say this case may go to one of those secret grand juries to find out if they're going to charge him or not. And they're trying to say because this brother gave him a black eye before, because he called him a nigga, and because this brother may have been pro-black, that justifies his murder and proves it was in self-defense. They try to say if you're pro-black, that's the equivalent of being in the KKK. But they wouldn't justify or try to cover up if a KKK member got murdered, like they did with the sister Amber Evans. She was a known activist, and they found her body in the river a month after she was missing.
Now know the identity of a body found in the Scioto River this weekend. Columbus police confirm they found local community activist Amber Evans in the water off the Whittier Street Peninsula. She'd been missing since late January. NBC4's Rob Sneed is joining us now live with an update. Rob, good evening. What have you uncovered for us tonight?
Columbus police, they're still trying to figure out exactly how she ended up here in the Scioto River yesterday. They discovered her body here. Now, many are on social media, many of her friends, family expressing grief about her death and praising her for her life. She's touched so many. Now, after nearly 2 months, the search for Amber Evans is over. Columbus police found the 28-year-old's body in the Scioto River. Soon after family members reported her missing, investigators say they found her car along the Scioto Mile after a dispute with her boyfriend. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office also assisted police in looking for Evans. Dive teams searched the river multiple times in hopes of finding her. Evans' death touched so many, especially in the black community, due to her community activism. She worked with the Juvenile Justice Coalition since 2015 and was promoted to executive director. Now, just 2 days before her disappearance, Evans told her mom about wanting to go back to Paris to teach children how to speak English. Now, this was the last time Evans' family ever heard from her again. Of course, Evans' family, they say on social media rather, that they plan on having a vigil for her here this Wednesday to honor her life.
Now, Amber Evans was reported missing after she got into an argument with her white boyfriend, who they're going out of the way to protect, even protect his name. That same night, they found her car parked by the river. The next day, they found her phone by the river. But for some reason, it took them a month to search the river to find her body. And her white boyfriend, who was last seen fighting with her, isn't even being brought up as a suspect. The police said they just consider her to be a distraught missing person. Because if your white boyfriend is mad at you, it'll make you so distraught that you'll kill yourself. But this is why we have to understand the situation that we are in and get on code, get on the same page. If we don't have each other's back, then nobody else will. Because at the end of the day, we are all we got. And until we realize that, history will keep repeating itself.
So it only took 1 day to undo what some of you saw as an injustice.
The Dallas County District Attorney is choosing to not prosecute the woman who took a beating, then allegedly broke out her attacker's truck windows.
It's what protesters were hoping for, but do you agree with the DA's decision to drop charges? Hit the Vote Now tile in your WFAA app. Tell us what you think. Damon Fernandez shows us how she reacted to that decision and the pain she carries with her today.
No racist! Police! No justice! No peace!
Emotions high in Dallas City Hall Wednesday. One day after the Dallas Police Department announces it's filing felony criminal mischief charges against assault victim LaDejanique Lee, protesters fired up.
This case totally unveils and puts it in a prominent place the disrespect that America has for we women of color.
Their presence alone prompting more police across City Hall as the group tries making its voice heard to Dallas city leaders.
You get mad at us when we get angry. You say we're angry or we're the mad woman syndrome. But you never intended to hear us, so we have to scream.
This group of women among those speaking out, concerned over Dallas Police Department's handling of the investigation into the violent assault Lee suffered at the hands of Austin Shuffield in a Deep Ellum parking lot nearly 2 weeks ago. On Wednesday, Lee said she's still experiencing pain.
My head, my ear. He busted my ear, so it's like I can't even sleep on this side. I have migraines every day.
This week, DPD pushed felony criminal mischief charges against Lee for allegedly causing damage to Shuffield's truck after the violent assault.
And anybody with an iota and a modicum of sense knows good and well that these charges against Lee are retaliatory.
Some sense of relief came late Wednesday afternoon as word spread the Dallas County DA is not pursuing the felony charge against the assault victim.
Today we stand up. And we stand up for not only Miss Lee, we stand up for all those women that are in the Dallas County Jail who are there for just surviving.
These women say their mission is only getting stronger now.
We came here to ask Chief Wayne Welsh why he posted a racist meme on his Facebook page. What we found here is a community that not only defends him, but is proud to have him as their top cop. Just beyond the crawfish-filled waters of southern Louisiana rests the village of Esterwood. It's small and sleepy. And even though in November, residents elected a police chief who shared this meme on Facebook, those we spoke to want you to know they're definitely not racist, and neither is their top cop. Is this town racist?
No, it's not.
Do you use the N-word?
Often, but I don't use it as racist.
How is using the N-word as a white man not racist?
I don't find it racist. I got plenty of black friends. We all use it.
Tyler Lanche has lived in Esterwood his whole life. He says just like most of the 900 or so residents here, he has no problem with Police Chief Wayne Welsh or the meme he shared. Do you think that's funny?
Not necessarily, but at the time it was.
What was funny about it?
It was just a post on Facebook that was shared and everybody blew it out of proportion.
Esterwood Mayor Donald Popp agrees. He too thinks this is all a big misunderstanding. The mayor says the meme is irrelevant now because it was posted nearly 2 years ago, in July of 2017, when Chief Welsh was assistant police chief.
He was disciplined, he was dealt with, and then he was reelected, ran unopposed.
Months later, when the spot for police chief was vacated in 2018, Welsh stepped in as the interim for 9 months. Then in November, he ran unopposed. By the time of the election, people either forgot about the meme or didn't much care. Well, what does it say about the people of this community that they would elect somebody like that?
I was not, again, I'm going to say I'm going to reiterate what I said. You know, I was not the mayor back at that time. I understand what you're saying, but I'm not going to elaborate on that.
But you are the mayor now.
I am the mayor now, yes.
What defense do you have to have a police chief who puts something like this on the internet?
I'll tell you what I just said. You know, I don't foresee any other problems with Chief Welsh.
Hey, Wayne, are you there?
Yep.
We wanted to talk to Welsh on camera, but he declined. He did agree to a phone interview. Then this happened. Minutes later, he sent me this text message. 2 years ago, I shared a picture on Facebook that I got a lot of heat over because it was said to be racism at that time. I didn't think it was just sharing something off Facebook. I was suspended from the police department for what I did. I also apologized on Facebook and on the live news later. The next year I ran for police chief in the election, and the town voted me their new chief of police. What happened 2 years ago is behind me, and my punishment was done to me, and now I'm moving forward with my life as the new chief of police. Thanks. Welsh may be moving forward with his life, but black residents in Esterwood, who account for less than 5% of the town, sound like they live in the past every day.
It doesn't surprise me.
Out of fear of retaliation, no black residents that we spoke to would go on camera to talk about the chief. Their voice, it seems, is drowned out by the others in Esterwood who defend him.
At the end of the day, if you need money or anything, you go to that man and he will give it to you. He's an all-around good guy. And whoever thinks this is messed up because he posted it, in the head. I hate to say it like that, but they are.
According to NOLA.com, Chief Welsh recently underwent training required for all new police chiefs in Louisiana, and that includes new guidelines and policy for social media. He said that if any one of his officers of his department does anything remotely similar to what he did, they would, quote, be automatically terminated. He added he doesn't want anything like this to happen again.
I haven't had sex in so long. It's really depressing. Can we not talk about it? I've been slavery.
New details tonight on the Parkway School District's reaction to a spring break video involving students using racial slurs. It's a story we first told you about on Fox 2 News at 6. Our Jeff Bernthal has reaction from a school board candidate forum tonight in Chesterfield. Jeff?
Yeah, Mike, this involves some high school students. We're outside the Parkway Central Middle School tonight because this is where that forum was held. The district telling us that the video did not involve any school activities. It took place at a student's home and involved some students from Parkway Central High School. This is a blurred image of the video. Students can be heard saying awful and threatening things against African Americans. Another student chants slavery 3 times. The district notified parents about the incident by email, and the school principal addressed the hate speech through a school announcement, saying students and members of the community feel justifiably offended, outraged, hurt, and for some, targeted. He said, "We feel you're hurt, and we are here to support you," adding diversity is one of the district's strengths.
We have complete faith in the administration, the superintendent and the administration to handle these incidents. So we are concerned, obviously.
I'd like to welcome all of you tonight to the candidate forum.
We caught up with current school board members and candidates during this League of Women's forum.
We are in a large school district. Things may happen, but we take this very seriously, and it is addressed by the administration very well.
The board members and candidates we spoke with said the district is proud of its diversity.
These kind of things should have a zero tolerance policy, in my opinion.
The leader of the St. Louis County NAACP believes this type of hate is growing.
We are seeing these incidents at an all-time high here in St. Louis County in the metropolitan region.
Now, we may never know what happens to those students involved due to privacy laws. There was one board candidate here who said she was unable to comment on the situation. She didn't have a chance to see that video.
You're gonna come up to me now?
Am I harassing you? You harassing
Don't
me.
you fucking touch me. Don't you fucking touch me, nigger.
Okay, exactly.
Woo!
I'm going to tell your landlord.
Get the fuck out of the way.
We calling people
niggers?
niggers? Are we calling people niggers? Hey, let's show the cops that.
Hey, call it like you see.
Are we calling people niggers? Let's show the cops that.
Hey, don't call him that.
In a shocking decision, McLennan County District Attorney Barry Johnson has announced he is dropping charges in all 24 of the remaining Twin Peaks cases. The 2015 shooting, of course, leaving 9 people dead, multiple ones injured, when gunfire erupted between rival biker clubs outside the Twin Peaks in Waco. Channel 6's Jasmine Caldwell spoke to Johnson today. She's live in Waco with more on why he came to this decision and also what former District Attorney Abel Reyna has to say about it. Hey, Jasmine.
Well, Leslie, 177 people were arrested that day, and McLennan County will not see one conviction. Barry Johnson said this decision was not easy for him. He said he spent the majority of his 4 months in office looking over those cases and determined the state could not get a conviction on any of them. He says the state could not go forward with charges such as aggravated assault, attempted murder, or a felon with a deadly weapon because the statute of limitations had expired on those charges. Johnson says the state was left only with the option to prosecute on a riot charge, which is a Class B misdemeanor. Now, he also pointed to a gray area in the law that could put those riot cases in a situation where they would be on appeal for years to come. Johnson places the blame on what he calls the mismanaging of the Twin Peaks cases under the direction of former DA Abel Reyna. I also reached out to former Twin Peaks defense attorney Paul Looney, who agrees with Johnson.
Given the long nature of this situation since 2015, that difficult day, May the 17th, 2015, I felt that it was time for me to make the decision to put this part of our dark history here in Waco, Texas to rest, so I made that decision.
Oh, your district attorney didn't have any choice. These cases were ruined more than a year ago. They were destroyed by the previous prosecutors. The cases were gutted from within.
We reached out to former District Attorney Abel Reyna, who says in a statement, "I absolutely disagree with the overall result, as well as several statements and accusations within Mr. Johnson's press release." He also says it's solely Barry Johnson's decision on how to proceed in any case in the District Attorney's office.
Police are on a high alert this morning throughout Texas because of a warning that our outlaw biker gangs may target them. Those fears of retaliation follow Sunday's deadly shootout in Waco, Texas.
Governor Greg Abbott says his state will not stand for the type of lawlessness seen on Sunday. Vicente Arenas is at the scene of the shootout near Interstate 35 in Waco. Vicente, good morning.
Good morning. The shootout that took place here at this restaurant revolved around two notoriously criminal biker gangs, the Bandidos and Cossacks. It all happened here on Sunday. Police were busy clearing away dozens of motorcycles Monday evening from the parking lot of the Waco Twin Peaks restaurant, a reminder of Sunday's violent shootout between rival motorcycle gangs and police that left 9 bikers dead and 18 injured. City buses transported the nearly 200 suspects downtown for processing into the McClellan County Jail. Each is being held on a $1 million bail. But that isn't stopping other gang members from possible retaliation. You mentioned that some of your officers had been threatened.
The leaders of the various gangs had opened it up that they could take local law enforcement members out.
On Sunday, the Texas Department of Public Safety sent out a bulletin warning of escalating violence between all Bandidos and Cossacks members.
They are the 1% of the motorcycling public that does not fit in, does not want to fit in.
University of North Texas professor James Quinn has studied criminal motorcycle gangs for 15 years.
As long as they're left alone, they will leave people alone. But if they are disrespected or injured or offended, they would prefer to handle it themselves.
Links to Sunday's shooting allegedly go all the way back to December with a murder at a Fort Worth bar and beating at a Toys for Tots drive. Both incidents involved the Bandidos and a rival gang. Jay Dobbins, a retired alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agent who infiltrated the Hells Angels, says the violence stems from territorial control to the so-called colors on gang vests.
These gangs, their club, their patch, their organization, their brotherhood, it's their religion. And they will fight for it and kill for it and die for it.
Sunday's shooting apparently started after the Cossacks showed up here wearing Texas on their vests, and Texas is notoriously known as Bandidos territory. Law enforcement officers say that they'd been trying to convince a Twin Peaks restaurant to not hold any biker events here. All along they feared there would be trouble.
We fixed the mistake, please. Because I got what my ticket said I owe, you feel me? So well, the ticket that you gave me then, sir. That's what I have. That's what I have today. That's what I have here today. Well, all the thing I have here today is what you told me I owe. Hey man, this Houston, Atlanta rapper, man, this coming, man. I'm out here in Mississippi, man. You already know. I pawned my gun, man. They trying to say I had the wrong ticket, bro. Don't touch me.
Can't walk around the goddamn store. I ain't gonna tell you again.
Hey.
Funny?
Look at this shit, man.
You ain't finna show nothing. You got another idiot in here causing trouble. Another idiot smile.
Get a rapper.
Better get. You touch me again.
Houston, Texas rapper, man. Like, yeah.
He's touching me.
Mississippi.
Get off.
Tonight, a customer hoping to buy his gun back from a Jackson pawn shop tells us instead of getting his weapon back, employees left him with a swollen eye and dodging a bullet. 3 on your side's Morgan Wagner has the latest.
Tamari Barnes says he went to Top Dollar Pawn Shop on Northwest Street earlier this month because he needed some money, so he pawned his AR-12 semi-automatic shotgun with every intention of coming back for the weapon within the store's 30-day limit.
The ticket that the manager gave me said that I owed $432 on it, but when I went to go get my gun, the price changed. He was saying that I owe like $600 something, and that's not what my ticket said.
Barnes says the manager and the employees of this store then started acting aggressively. That's when he took out his cell phone and started recording. In the video, you can hear the employee warn Barnes not to touch him. He then takes a swing, knocking Barnes and the phone to the floor.
As I was leaving the business, the owner came out and shot at me as I was leaving. He fired off a round. It was gone.
Barnes has filed multiple charges against the employees, including assault and battery.
I think that my client has suffered a number of damages, and so we are pursuing civil remedies. We anticipate having a lawsuit filed against the pawn shop within the upcoming days.
I've also tried reaching out to Top Dollar Pawn Shop about the situation. They tell us, according to their corporate office, they will not be commenting at this time.
All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, we as a collective have to get over this fear of white supremacy. And all the brutality we've seen over hundreds of years does cause trauma. With our own, we have no problem attacking them or taking the most extreme action possible. But with white supremacy, all we do is march and protest and hope for a change. Far too many of us just don't want no trouble. But we didn't start it. But we know if something happens, they'll be quick to get on code and have each other's backs. And we don't have a choice but to learn how to do the same thing. But instead, we want to pray a change into them. We try to talk to them and convince them instead of talk to ourselves and convince ourselves of what we truly deserve. In 1843, at the National Negro Convention, a black think tank discussing the black situation in America, the brother Henry Highland Garnett gave his most famous speech, a call to rebellion. He said instead of trying to convince or sway whites to change their hearts and grow a conscience and give us justice, he encouraged black people to gain their freedom by uprising against their slave owners. He said neither God nor the angels or any just man would command you to suffer for a single moment. Therefore, it is our duty to fight using every means, moral, intellectual, and physical, that would lead to success. Now, mind you, he wasn't even necessarily calling for killing anybody, but more so of a boycott. But many were shocked and called him extreme, including Frederick Douglass, who gave his own speech to condemn Henry Highland Garnett's speech. And the people at the convention ended up voting against Henry Highland Garnett. Far too many of us just want to be welcomed and accepted by white America, hoping something will happen that will make this a just society. But something built on murder and destruction can produce love and peace. And it's been beaten into us to love and forgive everybody but our own. In St. Charles, Missouri, a brother, Jalen Walker, was shot by a white man in the back over a parking spot. So let's see what led this brother, Jalen Walker, to get shot in the back.
An Amazon delivery driver shot after a fight over a parking spot. And today, prosecutors charged the shooter.
And tonight, we're hearing from the man whose life has changed forever. Doctors say he will likely never walk again. He spoke to our Casey Nolan.
21 years old, 2 jobs, and a 1-year-old son. Jalen Walker was always on the go. Right now, this is about the only way he can move.
What about do for some pain medicine?
I'd be paralyzed for the rest of my life. There was so many things I had. I'm a personal trainer. I wanted to go back to school, play college basketball. Walker, play with my son.
Tuesday, Walker says he had just finished his shift as an Amazon delivery driver when he stopped in this St. Charles Target parking lot to help a fellow driver. He admits he parked in a disabled parking spot. What happened next, he and his family can't understand. Prosecutors say 65-year-old Larry Tomlinson confronted Walker.
A guy approached me and asked me why the hell I parked my van in a handicapped spot. And I told him, look, I'm gonna move it. And he just kept harassing me.
Walker says Tomlinson punched him and he fought back.
But when he pulled the gun out, my eyes were just amazed. And I tried to run in between 2 cars. He got a nice aim and hit me right in my spine.
Prosecutors say surveillance video shows Walker trying to run away when he was shot in the back, paralyzing him from the stomach down. Wednesday, they charged Tomlinson with first-degree assault and armed criminal action. They say Tomlinson knows guns and should have known better.
He's been through the St. Charles Citizens Police Academy not once but twice. He has his concealed carry permit, so he knows when he's authorized and when he's not authorized to discharge a weapon.
While his future is now uncertain, Walker says he's already trying to move forward.
I forgive that man. I forget what he had done. And I just have to move on. Justice will be served. I just didn't want to die with that on my heart.
Walker's family tells me even though he was working those 2 jobs, he does not have insurance. They have gotten some response to a GoFundMe they've set up for him to help pay for his medical bills, and we've linked to that story on our Facebook page.
And he admits he made a mistake by
Absolutely.
parking in that spot.
Absolutely. And his mother says, hey, he deserved a parking ticket, not this.
Now, this brother Jalen Walker, who was a delivery driver for Amazon, literally at work, and he stopped at Target to help another delivery driver, and he parked in a handicap space so he could run in and deliver a package. And when he came out, a white guy, Larry Tomlinson, who was mad because he parked in a handicapped spot even though there were other spots available, called himself confronting him about it. And the brother even said he apologized. He said he'll move, but it wasn't good enough. He had his phone all in his face trying to record him. So the brother pushed him back and pushed the phone out his face. Then the brother Jalen Walker said the white dude punched him in the face, so he punched him back. And then they started fighting. Of course the brother was getting the upper hand while they were tussling on the ground. Then the brother Jalen Walker saw this dude had a gun on his hip. Now understand, they aren't really going to try you in a fair one. If they try you, it's either because they have a lot of backup or they have a weapon. So this brother who was unarmed, mind you, he was at work, started to run away. And he said when he turned to look back, he saw him fumbling with his gun. And then as he started to turn the corner, he shot him and it hit him in the back. It hit this brother in the spine, and the doctor said it's in the spot where he can't get to it. And the doctor said this brother's going to be paralyzed from the abdomen down for the rest of his life. Now this brother can't run around with his kids. He wanted to play basketball, and now he can't even walk. Then while this brother is still in the hospital, the barrel of the gun is still smoking. This brother is already talking about forgiving him.
Flanked by his mom, Regina, and lawyer, Jalen Walker sat up to speak with me about what happened and what happens next. I asked him if he remembered the altercation.
Yes, sir. Like I was shot for no reason.
Jalen's lawyer, Mark Cantor, would not let him speak about specific details. Police say Walker was shot by 65-year-old Larry Tomlinson. Walker, a delivery driver for Amazon, pulled into the St. Charles Target on Mexico Road, parked in a handicapped space, and walked into the store. Tomlinson took a photo of Walker's Amazon vehicle and waited for him to come out of the store. Authorities say Tomlinson argued with Walker about the space and punched him. The two wrestled, and Walker says they ended up on the ground. Walker says he saw a gun on Tomlinson and ran to his truck. Walker was shot in the back.
What's running through your mind now?
Me being able to walk again. Me being able to spend, as much time with my son.
Jalen was a basketball star at Gateway STEM, then played at Missouri Baptist, but now doctors tell him he'll never walk again. Yet almost instantly, he told his family he forgives the man who shot him.
Do you still feel that way?
Yes, sir. Because I could have died right there. I do not want that hatred on my heart. I don't want to die saying I hate anyone.
While Jalen is forgiving and dreaming of walking again, playing basketball and running around with his son, his mom, Regina, and attorney explain the seriousness of the injury.
The bullet severed his spine. Where his spine should be, the bullet is there. So they can't remove the bullet.
We're certainly not going to forget what has occurred here and seek justice and compensation. And we intend to pursue all avenues of recovery so that he can take care of his family to the best of his ability.
Cantor has a workers' compensation suit for Walker plus a civil suit against the man who allegedly shot him. Jalen Walker has a message for people worried about him.
Live like it's your last day. I didn't know I was going to get shot yesterday. I didn't know I was going to, be almost begging for my life.
Now this brother Jalen Walker is already saying he forgives him, but this white dude Larry Tomlinson never even tried to apologize, nor did he ever ask for any forgiveness. But this brother said he didn't want any hatred in his heart if he died. But he isn't the one with hatred. This white dude Larry Tomlinson went out armed looking to start a fight. Demanding justice for yourself is self-love, not hatred. This guy Larry Tomlinson probably wanted to be a cop. He went through the civilian police academy twice, and he had a concealed permit which you had to take classes for. So he knows he broke the law, but he did it anyway because he thinks he can. He tried to use the "I fear for my life" excuse, but he isn't a cop. And he was eventually charged with first-degree assault, which is attempted murder, and armed criminal action.
Charges now filed in a shooting outside a Target store in St. Charles. 5 on Your Side investigative reporter Jacob Long is live in St. Charles County with the new information.
Well, Mike, yesterday when this whole thing unfolded, we knew that it did involve a dispute over a parking spot in that Target parking lot, and that it involved an Amazon Prime delivery driver who had been shot. Well, now we have the charging documents from court, and they tell a lot more information about what prosecutors believe unfolded. Now charged in the case is 65-year-old Larry Tomlinson of St. Charles. He is facing armed criminal action and assault in the first degree, which in Missouri, that is the same thing as attempted murder. The shooting happened yesterday about noon at the Target on Mexico Road. An Amazon Prime delivery driver, 21-year-old Jalen Walker of St. Louis, he was illegally parked in a handicapped spot. Well, Lomar says, prosecuting attorney Tim Lomar, he says that apparently set Tomlinson off in a fit of rage. Court documents say Tomlinson took a picture of that delivery vehicle and then posted it on Facebook, and then he confronted Walker and ended up punching him in the face. Lomar says there is parking lot surveillance video showing that the driver, he tried to run away from the situation. Walker was trying to remove himself, and that is when Lomar says Tomlinson intentionally shot him one time in the back.
This guy was somebody who should have known better. He's been through the St. Charles Citizens Police Academy not once but twice. He has his concealed carry permit. So he knows when he's authorized and when he's not authorized to discharge a weapon.
Tomlinson is being held at the St. Charles County Jail on a $100,000 cash-only bond. Prosecutors say he is admitted to everything that happened and even called 911 after the shooting occurred. They say the evidence they have so far proves that this in no way was a self-defense sort of shooting. In the meantime, Walker and his family, they're at the hospital right now. Doctors have told them that they believe there's a very limited possibility that he will ever walk again. It's one of many medical complications he's dealing with right now.
Now, this kind of thing happens so much, and it's so ingrained in American history, that after he shot this brother, he called 911 thinking they were going to be on his side. But in this particular case, he was charged. Now, we'll see what happens and what kind of punishment he gets, if any. And even though this brother Jalen Walker forgives him, there needs to be consequences when people harm us. This white dude, Larry Tomlinson, decided to deputize himself, then shoot this brother, then turn around and claim self-defense to justify what he did. Now, this is the same state, Missouri, that since 1804, that punished black people if they even thought they were involved in the uprising, and punished people for disobeying their masters, and forced white citizens, whether they wanted to or not, to police black people. In 1825, this same state passed laws that forbid black people from even being able to testify against white people. Then, of course, that's the same state that had the Dred Scott decision in 1857 that said American citizenship is not meant for black people, and that black people had no rights that a white man had to respect. And we're still fighting to be a part of that system instead of focusing on building our own system. But if we want to forgive anybody, we need to start forgiving ourselves. And if we want to fight anybody, we need to start fighting our enemies. At the end of the day, we are all we got. And until we get on code and understand that, 100 years from now, we'll be having the same conversation.
One side wants Kim Foxx to resign for dropping the charges. The other supports her decision. Both sides clashing in dueling protests downtown today. WGN's Tanya Francisco joining us now with more. Tanya.
It was quite the scene, you guys, this afternoon. The protest revisited the bitter divisions in the city when it comes to the black community and policing.
It was a tense, chaotic scene. As opponents and supporters of Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx squared off during a protest organized by the Fraternal Order of Police in front of Fox's downtown office.
We're upset that the prosecution in this county is not being forceful enough.
We want freedom, freedom, all you racist
Counter-protesters set up across the street in Daley Plaza, calling the FOP hypocrites.
The FOP has protected killer cops. They have been some of the loudest opponents to criminal justice reform, not only on the local level, but on the state level.
At the heart of the debate, the decision to drop all charges against openly gay actor Jussie Smollett, who claimed back in January he was attacked by two men who shouted racist and homophobic slurs. During the investigation, it was revealed Fox had contact with Smollett's family, leading her to recuse herself from the case, only to have her office drop all charges against Smollett. It's a decision that has ignited passions across the city.
You're only mad about the black guy getting off, right?
Well, what about
the gay black man? But
I'm mad that they dropped everything and they sealed the record. We have the right to know what happened.
The FOP claims Fox's office has been soft on criminals, which is counter to the work its members are doing.
We only have to go back a few weeks to know that somebody whose charges were reduced was out on the street and then shot an off-duty police officer. We have to make sure that justice is being followed all the time.
Community activists say Fox is holding to her promise of reforming the state's attorney's office, and they say the attacks against her are a racist political witch hunt.
Since her election, Kim has worked to release people who have been wrongly convicted by the same corrupt leadership of the Chicago Police Department that is now attacking her.
Disagree with her if you want, but take your damn hands off her. Change is gonna come whether you want it or not.
The name of Laquan McDonald, the young man who was killed by police officer Jason Van Dyke, was invoked several times by those supporting Kim Fox. The FOP maintains the protest was about accountability when people commit crimes. The one thing both sides agree on, guys, is they want justice with consistency.
While going through the incident with the officer, it was a very sort of surreal moment.
Maryland legal aid attorney Rashad James says he was doing his job March 6 at Harford County District Court in Bel Air. After successfully getting an expungement for a client who was not there, a sheriff's deputy stopped him in the courtroom and began questioning if he was really a lawyer or impersonating one.
After the hearing, that's when I encountered the officer who incorrectly called me by the name of the client. I stated that I was not the client, that I was in fact my client's attorney.
The deputy then asked for identification. James says he showed his driver's license.
That should have been the end of it. I assure you that if it had been me, I'd have just walked out.
The officer apparently wanted more verification. Since James didn't have his state bar card or business cards, which he is not required to carry, he had the officer call his supervisor.
If Mr. James were white, this would not have happened.
His attorneys have filed a complaint with the Harford County Sheriff.
It should have been enough when Mr. James appeared in court and the judge accepted on the record that he was the attorney and his client was absent. That should have been enough at that moment. It wasn't enough for this officer.
Sheriff Jeffrey Gaylor sent this statement to 11 News. The Harford County Sheriff's Office is aware of these accusations. As with all complaints, the complaint filed on behalf of Mr. James was promptly assigned to the Harford County Sheriff's Office, Office of Professional Standards, for a complete and thorough investigation. We take all complaints seriously. Since the incident, James says he now carries business cards with him.
At no time did I feel, I would say, in danger. I mean, I knew that regardless that I wasn't in the wrong.
Attorneys for James want a full investigation. The incident placed in the officer's personnel file, sensitivity and implicit bias training for officers, and an apology for Mr. James.
Some residents on the Eastern Shore are a bit unnerved about a free gift being handed out around town. Bags of birdseed are showing up at people's home with an alarming message.
Residents think a white supremacist group is responsible for the propaganda, and they're spreading a message of hate. And your side's Andy Fox is digging deeper into this.
Saturday night, a terrible thing happened in Northampton and Accomack counties. Someone in a red pickup truck, it is believed, threw racist messages out of the truck onto the lawns of residents who live here. It appears 10 different messages were placed in at least 135 bags along with birdseed to make them fly through the air more easily to the lawns of innocent people. This one reads, "Make America white again." It landed on this woman's lawn who doesn't want to be identified, but she called us.
Somebody just throwing stuff out the car, so you don't really think there's something like that would be in a Ziploc bag until I just picked it up and, read it. So when I read it, I'm like looking like where is this coming from? Who would do something like that?
Lavinia Ames found a bag outside her church, but you found a bag with the seed.
Seeds right there by the step of the New Elm Church yesterday morning.
And then you came in here and
threw it in the trash can.
She threw it away, not really looking at it until we came along.
There it goes.
Oh! Northampton County Sheriff David Dowdy doesn't think it's a local person spreading hate.
We had one of our residents that saw a maroon colored Ford or pickup truck, extended cab, and with also a report that was given to Accomac. It was the same description of the vehicle, and the witnesses actually saw them throwing out the propaganda.
It appears the note designed to recruit people to the KKK. It has a hotline number and social media information.
To me, it just promotes division amongst our citizens, and that's not who we are here on the shore. It's very upsetting to me that someone would come through our county and distribute this type of material.
This social media post is a painful one, according to Elle Michelle.
And I had to read it 3 times. Am I really seeing this?
She's Issaquah School District's communications director, and Sunday night she learned about it. We've blurred the faces in this photo that shows a female student asking a male student to a school dance by saying, "If I was black, I'd be picking cotton, but instead I pick you."
It was awful. It was appalling. I think the most immediate thing on our minds was just saying, this is not okay. This is not okay. We do not condone racist speech.
Once the post was shared, comments came flooding in from students, parents, and the community, including Seahawks football player Doug Baldwin, who in a tweet stated, "I am saddened that this idea was thought of and executed without intervention. Racism is not just taught, it is encouraged through its tolerance. Let's take this as a reminder not only to be more empathetic, but to hold each other more accountable."
It's really sad. At worst, it's malicious and mean, and at best, it's ignorant. And either way, we need to change that.
Representative Lillian Ortiz Self is one of the sponsors of House Bill 1314, calling for ethnic studies in public schools, grades 7 through 12. In the bill, it states students need to be global citizens in a global society with an appreciation for the contributions of diverse cultures.
That's what we're hoping, is that ethnic studies will show all students not only about some forefathers, but all forefathers. Every one of us have a history of what brought us here.
In Issaquah, they do have curriculum about diversity
that talks about things like microaggressions, white privilege, intent versus impact.
But after this post, the district wants parents and students to know they are listening.
That element that we need to make sure that we are speaking to our families of color. What is your student experiencing? Do we need more curriculum?
School leaders want this moment to be a teaching one.
We just hope that we can all learn from it and grow from it.
Some Massachusetts high school students were shocked when they took a statewide assessment exam that asked them to write a journal entry from the perspective of a racist character. The question was in reference to the 2016 novel, The Underground Railroad, and it was part of the English Language Arts Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System exam, which is given to all sophomores in public schools. A vice president of the Teachers Association says students reported being deeply disturbed by the question, saying they felt like they were asked to basically write creative racial thoughts. The author of the book, Colson Whitehead, who won a Pulitzer Prize for his work, said he was appalled and disgusted by the assignment. After complaints, the question was pulled from the test by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Students who already took the test will not have the question scored. The others will be told to skip it.
Hannah, from a young age, you'd been using self-tanning products, hadn't you?
Yeah.
But the look you achieved with that, you weren't happy with.
It wasn't even that I wasn't happy with it. It's just like the smells, and then whenever it's washing off, because I go to the gym as well, like it goes all patchy, and
it wasn't the look you were after.
It wasn't the look I was after.
So you then met Ben, and Ben, you'd been using sunbeds from about 15, so you were quite
by
young.
15 I started using sunbeds.
Why?
So that
When I just always liked being tan, and we and my family went on holiday when we were younger. We used to compare to see who could get the darkest.
Right.
And so my friends started doing sunbeds as well, 15, so I started doing them, and then I met Hannah when I was about 17 when I met you.
Yeah,
17. And then Hannah started doing them as well.
So what is it with the colour? Why is it? I mean, we all go on holiday. I mean, if you come back and you haven't got a bit of a tan, you're a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
You know, what's the point of going away if people don't know you've been away? That sort of thing. But why this colour? Why so deep? Why so intense?
Just like gradually built it up, and I think I feel better with a tan, basically. I think you look better in clothes and stuff.
Just sort of gradually got there.
Yeah.
I actually feel like right now we're actually quite toned down. We have been so much darker.
You have
we
been
have
darker
been
than you are
darker.
now.
We've been so much
I was thinking when you sat down, I thought you're looking very pale. So this is all well and good. I mean, you have the, as you say, you've got the messy tanning products, and then you try the sunbeds.
Yeah.
And then there's the injections. So this was your brother, wasn't it?
Yeah, my brother.
So explain how this happened.
He just came in one day and he was a completely different colour, and we were like, what actually happened? And he was like, it was tannin injections, and then obviously Ben had to try them.
I know, I seen him being so dark, and I was like, flip, I want to try them.
It was
so
mad.
I started trying them, and then it just worked straight away for me, and then
It's like a year or two later before I tried them.
And a year or two, and you didn't try them at first because you were a bit anxious about it?
Injecting something into yourself,
into your body,
Sounds like
understandably
no.
so. The first time you tried it, you did have quite a reaction to it.
It made me feel quite sick. A few days.
For a few days.
And then it would just sort of go away.
You had another bad reaction.
Yeah, I got a tan injection online, so I did, and it gave me an abscess, so it did in my stomach, and I had to get, I had to go to the hospital and was on antibiotics. I had to do a course of antibiotics.
What did the doctors
to get rid of it? They found out it was like a bacterial infection, and they said it was something that was in the tan and not like a dirty needle or something that I've used. But they found out it was in the product I bought. But I just love being tan, so.
So you'll continue to do anything to achieve this look?
Like, we would just do sunbeds like 2 to 3 times a week. 15 minutes I would do. Ben would do like a lot less because he would burn.
I would burn my face would go red, so it would.
It's nothing really.
2 people had a throwdown at a buffet over crab legs?
Yeah, a Huntsville police officer was eating at the restaurant and witnessed the whole thing. He says diners were waiting in line for 10 minutes for those crab legs. Then they lost their tempers when the food came out. The officer said Chiquita Jenkins and John Chapman were using service tongs like fencing swords.
And Jenkins was beating Chapman. You can see a Band-Aid on his forehead in the mugshot. Jenkins is charged with assault, Chapman charged with disorderly conduct.
As Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
At this point, I question the whole purpose of the Black Panther Party. In my thinking, they were necessary. It was a shock treatment for white America to see black men running around with guns, just like black men and saw white men running around with guns. Yeah, that was a shock treatment. It was good in that extent, but it got a lot of black people hurt. My recruitment by the FBI was very efficient, very simple, really. I'd stolen a car and went joyriding over the state limit, and they had a potential case against me, and I was looking for an opportunity to work it off. And a couple of months later, that opportunity came when FBI agent Roy Mitchell asked me to go down to the local office of the Black Panther Party and try to gain membership. We tried to develop negative information to discredit him, just like we did everybody else. We, meaning the FBI, I tried to come up with signs of him doing drugs or something, and never could. He was clean. He was dedicated. I've had private conversations with him. We got along pretty well.
2 weeks later, a gun battle on Chicago's South Side further escalated tensions. A former Panther and 2 policemen were killed. The deaths provoked a response from informant William O'Neill's FBI contact.
Mitchell became more specific during that time. He wanted to know the locations of weapons caches. He wanted to know if we had explosives. He needed to know who was staying at what locations, who spent the night where. His information didn't change so much as he requested more detail. And I knew why. The shootout on the South Side had pretty much laid the foundation within the party, within the Black Panthers. We knew that the police would react some type of way.
Expecting police action, the Black Panthers had fortified their office. FBI informant O'Neill was now head of Panther security in Chicago.
And I remember walking out of the office and looking through a little clearing over on the next block, which was right in front of the Monroe Street address, and seeing a lot of police cars over there. And at that time, Bobby Rush came to the office. He had just come from over there, or maybe the coroner's office. In any case, we walked back over there, and we both were speechless. We just walked through the house and saw what had taken place and where he died, and it was shocking. And then I just began to realize that the information that I had supplied leading up to that moment had facilitated that raid. I knew that indirectly I had contributed, and I felt it, and I felt bad about it. And then I got mad. I had and then I had to conceal those feelings, which made it worse. I couldn't say anything. I just had to continue to play the role.
FBI headquarters authorized payment of a $300 bonus to informant William O'Neill for, quote, uniquely valuable services which he rendered over the past several months, unquote.
Standing right here is a guy who looks like Snoop Dogg. Damn. But he ain't Snoop Dogg. Well, you do look.
I get that all the time.
What's your name, man? You new and upcoming, but you're at this summit. What's your name? Where you from?
My name Nipsey Hussle. I'm from L.A., Slauson and Crenshaw area. You know.
Okay, well, Nipsey Hussle, that's named after Nipsey Russell, the comedian.
Correct, yes.
So talk a little bit about yourself, man. What brings you up here, up and coming, and, how come you're not blinging and having all kind of crazy diamonds and all that? I guess you're here to get your money right, huh?
All the time. I mean, all that is cool for the image and all that, but all them is liabilities, you feel me? I'd rather invest in some real estate, you know what I'm saying?
Wait, can you repeat that again, man? You're up and coming artist. What did you say you want to do?
I say invest in some assets as opposed to trick off my money on some liabilities like diamonds. You know what I'm saying? Cars that lose value, so you drive them off the lot.
So you're trying to get land.
Exactly, homie. A real asset. Take care of my peoples, cause it look good, but at the end of the day, you losing value, homie. It ain't appreciating. It's depreciating. It's losing value.
What do you think? Why do you think it's so hard for people to get that message? I mean, one half you get guys that say they got to impress the females. Female ain't trying to talk to you unless you blinged out. On the other hand, you got other people feel like they got to show off to the homies and impress them with their riches. I mean, what do you think is how do we get that out of that mindset?
I mean, I feel like that's insecurity. Material things ain't nothing, you feel me? At the end of the day, it's who you is, You wasn't born with it, you gonna die without it. So if you feel you need some diamonds or some jewelry to get at a female, it's because you feel you lack something within yourself, you know what I mean? So all that, as far as that angle, it's like I feel that's insecurity.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the brother Kevin Battle Sr., to the sister Amber Evans, to all our brothers and sisters who were taken from us prematurely. We as a group cannot keep taking casualties. At some point, we're going to have to stand up and defend ourselves, love ourselves, and command the respect that we deserve. They have no problem brutalizing us, man, woman, child, old or young. But we have to walk on eggshells when we even speak about it. And hundreds of years of being attacked psychologically does have a big effect on us. But we're going to have to find a way to turn that forgiving nature to our own. They're comfortable with us protesting and marching and begging and crying for justice, for fairness. But it's a problem when we start commanding it. That's why it's important for us to support each other. If somebody offers you something of value, support that brother or sister. Because at the end of the day, we really don't have any other choice. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something. Or we're going to keep falling for anything.